Hey there everybody, welcome to another episode of Bert's Bike, and today we are test driving the Indian Scout 101. And man, I have to say it's a really amazing looking bike. Looks like the traditional Scout, except some some changes with the aesthetics and the engine covers and all that. Beautiful bike. Don't know about that exhaust though, but let's give it a shot. Got some piggyback shocks on there. I think they're Fox, I'm not quite sure. So you got your inverted front forks, fairing. Wow. A lot of cool stuff on this bike. I know dimensionally it hasn't changed much, but it looks a little shorter or more compact than the original Scout. I know it's not, but it just has that way about it with like the taller tank and everything. But yeah, let's get on it and take it for a little spin. Alright, where's that power button at? Where is the power button? Alright, power button is down here. Alright. Woo! Okay, the ride command is still starting up. All right. Woo! Bringing back some memories here. Right away, this is a really comfortable ergonomic. Man, it's a lot of fun already. Wow. Alright, so the fairing, right away that fairing is doing something. It's taking a little bit of pressure off my sort of lower chest, kind of putting it kind of at my neck and upper chest area. It's not bad, but I prefer not having the fly screen at all, but it does look super cool with the fly screen. Mirrors seem to be doing a great job. I love Indian's bar end mirrors. They're super cool. They're exactly where they need to be and give you great rearward visibility. Right away, this bike is so familiar to me. I used to own an Indian Scout 60. It was the second bike that I had on my channel, and that was a pretty cool bike, I have to admit. I have a couple of videos on the Indian Scout 60 and the Indian Scout, and I'll link those below if you're interested. But right off the bat, this thing feels super responsive, super peppy. Let's test out this suspension here. Okay, yep, my original Scout did not have the awesome new suspension that this does, but it still feels kind of similar to the way it reacts when it hits a bump. I'm sure this is, this feels definitely way more agile and planted, but it's just the way that the bike itself feels when it takes a hit, Right away, I love these kind of forward controls, and these aren't severely forward. You're just kind of kicked out a little bit, not too badly at all. It's a very comfortable stance. I really prefer the foot pegs on the Scout, not the floorboards. What's great about this Scout is, other than the power of my Scout 60, it kind of picks up on all the shortcomings of the Scout. Now, with any cruiser that has a slam stance, you're definitely giving up some ergonomics for functionality. That is ever so evident on this bike. You're a little more seat out on this. You're kind of sitting below traffic, but it gives you this really cool stance and feeling that that is just kind of unique to the Scout, in my opinion. Let's see the U-turn on this thing. Pretty easy for a cruiser, I have to say. One more time. I am noticing a little bit of delay in the throttle though. Yeah, there's a little bit of sort of dead play with the throttle before anything happens. Yep. So just something to get used to on that. Let me check something real quick. Okay, we're on sport mode, good. So we're getting all the power all the time. Now I've touched about this on my other Scout videos, but one thing I really don't like about bikes with TFT displays and everything, I'm not anti-TFT display, but I just can't stand the fact that when you start it up, it takes forever to boot up. Now, I don't know if you noticed the video, but when I took off out of the parking lot, it was still starting up. And, you know, you could be down the road and up to speed and you still don't know kind of what your speed is or your RPM. I just think they need to upgrade the chipset or whatever is driving these dash units, because on my other bikes that have had TFTs, my Tenere was like that. I guess my Tenere is the only one that I have right now, but I've ridden a KTM 390 and that screen was pretty much instant. It was awesome. So I'm kind of stuck at this light, and this is a liquid cooled bike, but the engine is getting pretty darn hot, and you can definitely feel that coming up on both sides. It's not even that hot outside, and it is getting up there. I mean, if you're used to riding air-cooled motorcycles and Harleys and stuff, it's probably not going to be a thing for you. Yeah, it's just something to note on this bike. Alright, I do have to say that I love this handlebar setup. I'm usually not a big fan of the raised risers, but it really does put the handlebars on the Scout bobber kind of at a better angle ergonomically, just for, you know, prolonged riding on a bike. Now, you can do anything with anything, but typically the guy who's buying the Scout bobber or the Scout isn't doing a whole lot of long distance, although I did on my Scout, but I did not have the Scout bobber. I had the regular Scout ergos, and I found it pretty darn comfortable for longer rides. Also, this stock seat on here is really working really well. You still have some play to move around a little bit, and I think the material is just better and more supportive. With the old Scout seat, it always felt like if you were pretty heavy-handed on the throttle, that you were kind of slipping off the back of the seat. So there's that. So let's see how this does on the highway. Also, I have to say, the clutch pull on this thing is so light compared to my Scout 60. My Scout 60 really had a tough clutch pull, and mine was a 2019 model, and I think that particular year the clutches were just really heavy. Not exactly sure why that is, but it really did give me some pain in my hand after long rides, and prolonged pain after being on the bike. I'm also one of those guys that, you know, doesn't pop it into neutral when at a stop. I'm always kind of holding the clutch in case I have to move out of the way fast. So a light clutch pull is definitely something that I think this bike benefits from. Let's talk about power here. Man, tons of power on tap. Yeah, no problem here. Whew. Definitely no problem getting up to speed and staying there with this bike. Wow. Now, from hitting these bumps here, the suspension is definitely a tighter feel, but it definitely feels like the bike is planted, but it is definitely doing that thing where when you hit not even a significant bump, but you're feeling the bike sort of buck a little bit. And you know, it probably just needs to be dialed in for my rider weight, but overall it feels very planted. So as I was saying, I owned the Scout 60, but I also owned an Indian Chief, and I have to admit that after getting back on the Scout, if I were to own another Indian in the future, I think overall the Scout is just that sweet spot of performance and practicality if you're going to own an Indian. The big tourers, the Roadmaster, the Challenger, they're amazing bikes. But I really feel like the Scout is just kind of a special bike for the Indian lineup. I feel like they really nailed it with the Scout. So when I had my Indian Chief, I had a bunch of problems with it that had to be fixed under factory warranty. And in talking to, let's see this bump here. Okay, not too bad. So in talking to, you know, customer support and warranty and all that kind of stuff, you know, in our conversation, it was kind of admitted that the Scouts have the least problems out of any Indian. And that kind of makes sense because up until, you know, Ride Command came out, the Scouts were pretty basic. It was basically a key, not a key fob, and you had your speedometer and LCD tachometer and very basic things going on there. When they added, I guess, you know, the Ride Command options on the bikes, their new system is kind of homologated over the entire line. Obviously, with the addition of like more advanced tech, if you have problems, it's not going to be as easy to get that fixed. My Chief, for example, when I would switch riding modes, it would just randomly lock me out completely. And you know, it wouldn't be 20 minutes later till I could access that feature again. So hopefully that they have kind of addressed those issues and fixed that, but I kind of equate it to the chipset or whatever is going on underneath the hood that is driving the OS and all that kind of stuff in the Ride Command. I think that that just kind of needs to be addressed, and they don't need to cheap out on that. They need to put the best components in there because, you know, on a bike like this, if this speedometer has a glitch or haywires out or whatever, you just don't have any information on your bike. So what do I love about the bike? I love the looks, I love the ergos. This is just super comfortable. I love the power. There's really not much not to like about this bike. For a cruiser, it is super sporty, and you know, as far as straight line goes, it is amazing. Yeah, for a cruiser, it's definitely got all the things you're gonna want to have for this type of bike. I would still like to try a Scout with mid controls. I know they have the kit for them, and I know some companies make them, but I'd love to try one. Probably wouldn't be too awesome for someone of my height. You know, with motorcycles, you change like one thing and it changes the overall feel of the bike dramatically. So, but man, this bike is super fun. In my opinion, this is sort of the shining star of the Indian motorcycle company, is the Indian Scout. It's amazing. Scout 60, they're all good. The 101 definitely has all the bells and whistles and upgraded suspension and all that kind of stuff. So if you're gonna do that kind of stuff to your bike, it's definitely worth looking at. Definitely, out of all the bikes I've test rode from Indian and have owned, I think the Scout, and namely this 101, is definitely the best one for me if I were to buy one. So do with that what you will. It's a cool bike though. Wow. Let's get a little sound check if we could. Oh yeah, forgot to mention, I really think that the old exhaust looked way better on the Scout. That dual exhaust to me was part of the entire Scout design language. I'm just not loving this 2-in-1. You probably get more power on it, but yeah, cool bike. Paint job is awesome. What's there not to like? Alright guys, well, thanks so much for watching, everybody. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment below. It's Bert's Bike, and I'll catch you on the next one.